that hot mess that they air in the mornings called The View had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side. And then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away.
Whoopi launched into the segment with her usual swagger, tossing her head back with that all-too-familiar smug grin, her voice trying to command the space like always. But something was off. The applause was weaker, the energy was duller, and the cameras seemed to hang on her face just a little too long, like they were waiting for something to snap. The second Charlie Kirk walked onto that stage, the entire vibe changed in an instant. It was like a gust of cold, unfiltered truth blew the doors off the studio. He didn't read their cues, didn't fake a smile, and certainly didn't come to play nice. He came to detonate the narrative right in front of them. Every word that came out of Charlie's mouth hit like a wrecking ball against the polished facade of The View's safe little echo chamber. And Whoopi? Her expression said it all. Frozen, blindsided, caught in real time as the curtain of control ripped right off. And let's be honest, this reckoning was long overdue. This clash wasn't just about one awkward moment or a single bad take. It was the result of years of smug monologues, out-of-touch opinions, and the illusion of untouchable authority finally colliding with someone who refused to back down.
CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a
Charlie didn't pull a single punch, not even for a second. He called out The View for mocking young conservatives, ridiculing people of faith, and twisting every conversation into a personal attack. Whoopi tried to jump in, tried to interrupt, but her hesitation spoke louder than anything she could have said. Her silence was damning. And then, bam, the real shock hit. Megyn Kelly stepped onto the set, not to support, but to deliver the second blow Whoopi never saw coming. She was precise, merciless, and cool as ice. While Charlie brought the fire, Megyn brought the scalpel, and she carved through the nonsense without flinching. Megyn wasn't playing games, she came to expose it all. With her voice calm and steady and proof in hand, she began tearing down Whoopi's carefully constructed image, brick by brick. And the most devastating part? Whoopi had nothing, no retort, no spin, no shield to hide behind. What was supposed to be just another segment exploded into a brutal takedown of Whoopi's media throne. And no one moved to save her. Not Joy, not Sunny, not the panicked crew behind the cameras. It was like they all agreed, let it burn. Calling it a breakdown would be too gentle. Whoopi's once powerful presence drained from her face. She looked pale, panicked, and completely lost. Her hands trembled as she clutched her cue cards like lifelines. But they were useless now. The queen of daytime looked like a deer in headlights. Then came the dagger. Megyn played the clips, the viral meltdowns, the biased rants, the moments Whoopi prayed had been forgotten. But Megyn brought them all back, and every clip shattered what was left of Whoopi's image.
Disgusting. She's Anna Navarro in your wildest imagination. You could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate in whatever space he can.
The reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit.
It was brutal, and it was completely intentional. Every move, every word, every moment felt like it had been sharpened beforehand just to cut deep. Then Charlie dropped the final blow that shook the room. You don't speak for America, Whoopi. You speak for a dying echo chamber that fears the truth. And just like that, the atmosphere collapsed. Whoopi froze in place, her usual control slipping right out of her hands like water. The audience didn't know what to do. Some gave awkward claps. Others sat stone-faced, jaws slightly open. This wasn't just fiery TV. It was a moment of long-buried accountability exploding for all to see. Before the cameras even stopped rolling, the internet was already ablaze. Clips flooded timelines, hashtags exploded, and Whoopi's name surged. Not in celebration, but in condemnation. Her moment of reckoning had gone viral in real time. And the worst part? Whoopi had nothing. No comeback, no sass, no witty save. The woman who always got the last word sat silent, swallowed by the very air she used to command. Megyn didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She simply listed the facts, calmly and relentlessly. Each contradiction she exposed landed like a legal strike, cold and clear, while the world watched Whoopi crack under the weight of her own legacy. Then Charlie doubled down, slamming The View's legacy of hypocrisy. The mocking of conservative voices, the constant digs at young patriots, the smugness of assuming their word was gospel. And Whoopi, she wasn't just part of it, she was the symbol of it. And that made the collapse personal. Desperately, Whoopi tried to steer the conversation somewhere, anywhere, but no one followed. The audience stared blankly, the guests didn't budge, and even her co-hosts sat stiffly, eyes wide, unwilling to step into the wreckage unfolding live on set. And instead of cutting to commercial, the producers did the unthinkable. They zoomed in. They let the world see every crack, every flicker of panic, every moment of raw, unscripted downfall. This wasn't just another talk show segment. It was a full-on unraveling, the kind that doesn't just make headlines, it rewrites reputations forever.
And there was this Turning Points conference with all the smoke. What are they, smoking something down there? Or it's like, whatever. Anyway, they were out there. They were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs.
Whoa, the drama. Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, threatened to sue The View. And let me tell you, the nonsense that ensued is really...
The woman who once silenced entire studios with just one glare now sat paralyzed, struggling to breathe through the very fire she spent years igniting under others. The iron grip she used to have over the room, gone like smoke in the wind. When the segment finally ended, there was no applause, only a thick, suffocating silence. It was as if the entire set suddenly woke up and realized what the audience at home already knew. The empire had collapsed. And the crown? Nothing but shattered pieces. Charlie Kirk didn't strut out with a mic drop. He didn't have to. One look at that confident smirk, and the message was clear. Mission accomplished. No loud exit, no grandstanding. The video clips spoke louder than words, and the internet crowned him the man who tore the veil off a dying legacy. And Megyn Kelly? She didn't stick around to soak in the aftermath. She calmly collected her papers, glanced at the chaos she'd just unleashed, and walked out like a judge closing the courtroom. It wasn't showbiz. It was a sentence being carried out live. Whoopi stayed seated longer than she ever had, motionless, like someone hit by a truth too sharp to dodge. Her sharp tongue, missing, her signature laugh, gone. The silence that followed, it roared louder than anything she'd ever said. For years, The View had protected her, wrapping her in constant praise and cheers, no matter how absurd her takes became. But now, that bubble burst wide open, and the fall was spectacular for everyone to see. The producers scrambled to control the narrative, spinning the meltdown as just a spirited debate. But no one bought it. You can't slap glitter on wreckage and call it a masterpiece. Online. Chaos. People unleashed receipts like tidal waves. Clip after clip of Whoopi's cringiest moments, her dismissive comments, and those bold declarations that didn't just age badly. They decayed instantly. This wasn't a stumble. It was a reckoning years in the making. And what made the downfall sting even deeper? Charlie and Megyn weren't even regulars. They weren't part of the show's circle. They were outsiders. And yet, in one devastating appearance, they did what no insider dared to do. They ripped the illusion to pieces.
Asked him about that. They asked him about that moment. Watch this, South 36.
The vice president was here. I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that comes to mind. Now, that answer was weaponized against her. And there has been some reporting that you...
This wasn't just a bad PR moment. It was a cultural earthquake that cracked the foundation of celebrity privilege. It sent a crystal-clear message to every star who thinks they can coast on arrogance, rewrite reality, mock everyday people, and still be cheered just for walking on set. Her die-hard defenders raced to social media to spin the story, trying to patch up the wreckage with hashtags and hollow statements. But it was far too late. Even some of her oldest fans started speaking out, admitting, something's different, and it's not good. The same people who once tuned in for her quick wit and bold takes were now watching for a different reason, to witness the slow-motion collapse of a media titan. The View didn't feel like a talk show anymore. It felt like a high-profile implosion broadcast live. And while Whoopi likely sat in her dressing room, stunned and searching for the moment it all began to slip, the truth was already echoing across every screen. This wasn't sudden. This had been building for years. Charlie Kirk didn't waste a second. Within hours, he had a podcast episode up, walking his audience through the takedown play-by-play, calling it one of the rawest truth checks ever aired on television. And Megyn? Her YouTube response was a cold, calculated dissection. Megyn stated, "You can't hide behind daytime charm forever. Eventually, the real world breaks through. And today, it didn't knock. It kicked the entire door down." Her tone was icy, but the aftermath was volcanic. Other talk show hosts were watching closely. And somewhere in Hollywood, you can bet celebrity publicists were firing off emails with one chilling subject line: "This is what happens when you get too comfortable." Because here's the harsh truth. Whoopi had been coasting for years. Untouchable, unchallenged, and completely wrapped in layers of applause and approval. And when that bubble burst, it burst loudly, with millions of eyes watching the fall. This wasn't just a humiliating moment. It was a shift in power. For the first time in years, Whoopi wasn't steering the narrative. She was the spectacle, and it was spiraling out of control. All the awards, viral clips, and media praise couldn't save her now. That moment on set, the stammering, the silence, the wide eyes, was captured forever. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a stain on everything she once stood for. And the cruel irony? Whoopi always believed she was the truth-teller.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
Did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever.
But when the truth finally strolled in, wearing a sharp blazer and holding undeniable receipts, Whoopi had nothing left to give. Clips of the confrontation spread like wildfire, captioned with phrases like, "The day Whoopi got humbled," and "Charlie and Megyn didn't come to play." This wasn't just a viral moment, it was a cultural explosion. Talk radio lit up instantly. Even podcasts that never dared to touch daytime TV suddenly couldn't get enough, devoting full episodes to dissecting the drama from every angle. One popular host asked, "Is this the fall of The View?" And for the first time, no one laughed. And through it all, Whoopi's silence stretched on. And that silence screamed louder than any of her monologues ever had. The woman known for fiery retorts and theatrical pauses now had nothing but stunned quiet, and it was deafening. The following episode of The View tried to smooth things over with a perfectly crafted apology. But it landed with a thud, like trying to stop a flood with a piece of tissue. The damage was done, and the public wasn't buying the cleanup act. Not this time. Charlie Kirk didn't let up in the aftermath. In a fiery follow-up, he declared, "They tried to smear our students, they got caught, and now they're hiding." And here's the sting. His words rang true. Megyn Kelly didn't smirk or gloat, but she stood firm. With a piercing stare and unshakable calm, she said, "You can't accuse others of ignorance while living in your own bubble. Eventually, someone's going to pop it." And just like that, the illusion shattered. That's what made the takedown hit so hard. Whoopi wasn't framed as evil. She was exposed as outdated, disconnected, and completely unready for a world that had moved past her style of performance. Because in today's age, when the truth gets caught on camera and played back 1,000,000 times, no audience applause, no edit, and no clever spin can erase what the world just saw.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week, and we have a lot to sift through, and if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine.
Not even decades of training the crowd to clap on cue could rescue her this time. The silence wasn't just awkward, it was revealing. The power she once wielded with ease had completely slipped from her grasp. The fallout was undeniable. Longtime fans began posting comparison clips, pairing old highlights with recent stumbles, captioned with heartbreak like, "She's not the same," and "This isn't the Whoopi I looked up to." Her once solid foundation cracked wide open and support drained faster than anyone imagined. You could feel the momentum collapse in real time. One moment, she stood as the untouchable queen of daytime talk, and the next, she was blinking under the stage lights like someone watching their kingdom dissolve in front of them. But let's be honest, this didn't come out of nowhere. This was years in the making. It built slowly through a pattern of unchecked arrogance, cold dismissals, and the dangerous belief that holding a platform made her immune to pushback. That fantasy? Shattered in one searing segment. By the time The View aired its next few episodes, something had changed, and not for the better. Whoopi's once dominant presence now felt shaky, fragile, and worst of all, irrelevant. And the audience? They felt the shift immediately. Every time she tried to deliver a strong opinion, it came with hesitation, like she wasn't sure anymore. Was she still leading the room, or were they just listening out of habit? Even her co-hosts seemed different, smiling too hard, nodding too often, their eyes flickering with unease. It was like they were sitting beside someone they used to follow, unsure if she could still lead. Because when a legacy begins to fall, it doesn't always crash with a bang. Sometimes it fades into a strange, suffocating silence, where applause used to erupt. And those once admiring eyes? Now, they stared with doubt, and even a little pity.